What's up, my people? In this video, we're going to be talking about piecewise functions and how to evaluate them and how to graph them and all that good stuff, okay? But before we get into that, let's do a quick review. So I'm going to give you a quick review, and I'm also going to give you some steps. So let's do a quick review. Remember that when we were graphing inequalities, those meant open circles. Anytime you had the equal to sign under it, that's a closed circle. Which looks like this. That same thing is going to apply. And here are a couple of steps when you want to graph your piecewise functions, okay? Step one, you want to draw your boundary lines. Second thing you want to do is graph your lines only keeping what you need. And then step three is make sure your circles are correct. Side note, those will always be on your boundary line. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into some equations. All right, so when we're dealing with piecewise functions, we have to take a look at like what's needed, what are we talking about, what do we need, all that good stuff. So we're gonna look at the first set. We're not gonna look at this graph. We don't need that. We're gonna look at the algebraically part. So let's look at what this means. All right, so we got three different sections. We got, and you got to figure out which equation does what fall into, okay? So if I were to draw a number line, I got to put -2 on there. So that's those two, and I got to put +3 on there, okay? I got to put those on there. Now, if the number is less than -2, that's this part. Actually, I'll highlight that. If it's less than -2, if it's over here, that's this line that we use. Okay? If it's in between -2 and -3, we use this equation. And if it's bigger than -3, I'll just use this one, and it's gonna go, if it's in this area, we use that equation. Okay? So for the purposes of this, let's look at our numbers that they gave us and see where they fall. Well, -4 falls right there. So that's in the purple section. Okay? Where does +6 fall? +6 happens to be bigger than 3. Actually, I'll put 0 here just so you can kind of look at the number line better. And then I'm going to put +6 there. That's bigger than 3. So that's going to be the pink one. And then I got -2. -2 happens to be exactly on the line. So the question is, which equation do I use? Well, I'm going to use the purple one because This right here, I'm going to show it to you really quick, is less than or equal to 2. Okay, so I use that one. Okay, so there's that. And let me go ahead and do my purple back. Perfect. And then 0 falls in between -2 and 3. So 0 falls in between my 2 red numbers. And so that means we're going to do blue. That's where 0 fell. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve these. And I'm just going to plug them in, right? So if I take -4 and I plug it into my purple equation, I got to plug this in for x. 2. The equation is 2x plus 8. I got to plug that -4 in where the x was. That's going to equal -8 plus 8 equals 0. See, not too bad. Okay, the next one. Because f was 6, I got to plug it into my pink equation. So we said, and that's the square root of x plus 3. Well, that's going to be the square root of 6 plus 3, which is equal to the square root of 9. And your answer is going to be a +3. Okay, now I'm going to plug in the -2 into my purple equation. And my purple equation is 2x plus 8. I'm going to do 2. I'm going to plug in -2 plus 8. That's -4. Plus 8 is still +4. And then f of 0, I'm going to plug it into the blue equation. And that blue one says x squared minus 3. I'm going to plug 0 right where that x is at. 0 squared minus 3. So 0 minus 3 is equal to -3. Okay? We're going to do another one. Let's do this one together. So I'm going to go ahead and I see my boundary lines. I'm going to go ahead and make me a quick number line. And I see I'm going to have to use 1 and the number 5. So if it falls in between there, so if it's less than 1, that's this equation. If it falls in between 1 and 5, that's going to be the green equation. And if it falls bigger than 5, that's going to be the pink equation. So let's go look at our numbers and see what falls where. I got to look right here. Is 8 less than 1 in between 1 and 5, or is it bigger than 5? And we know 8 is bigger than 5, so that's going to go pink. What about 0? Where does 0 fall? And if you said less than 1, you are correct. Where does 4 fall? 4 falls in between 1 and 5. And that one is green. And then where does the 5 fall? Well, 5 is one of our exact numbers. And because we got to find which one has the equal to sign on the 5, and that happens to be the pink one. Okay, so let's put our numbers in right here. 8 falls here. Oops, sorry. I don't want to highlight it right there. 8 is about right down there. 0 is over here on a number line. 4 is in between 1 and 5. 4 is about right here. And 5 is right here on the dot, so that's the equal to, okay? All right, so we're going to plug these into the correct equations. So I'm going to plug, so I got, let's do, so I got to do the pink one. So the absolute value of x minus 2, that's going to be the absolute value of 8 minus 2, which means that's the absolute value of 6. And remember, when you have absolute value, what that pretty much is saying that it doesn't matter what your number is, as long as at the end it's still positive. So the answer to this is positive 6. Okay? Let's do the next one. F of 0, I got to plug that into the blue equation. 2x cubed minus 1. That's going to be 2 times 0 cubed minus 1. That's 2 times 0, because 0 cubed is still 0, minus 1. And 2 times 0 is still 0, minus 1. So my answer here is going to be negative 1. Okay? Next one. Now, I like these because if you look at the green one, when there's just a number sitting there, that means no matter what number you plug in that's in between the 1 and the 5, your answer is going to be 3. So F of 4 is 3. There's literally no work to be done. There's no equation to solve. It literally gave you your answer already. Okay? And then 5, we got to plug that 5 in. Absolute value of x minus 2. So absolute value of 5 minus 2, which is the absolute value of 3, which is just still positive 3. Now, if it would end up being negative 3 on the inside, it still would come out positive. Okay? So that's how you plug those in. Hopefully this is there's no issues here. Okay, let's go to the next part. Oops, wrong way. All right. So now you don't have to plug stuff in at the top one, on the top two. You have to be able to look at the graph and see what's happening at that location. Okay, so when we write functions, I'm gonna just write this right here. Then I'm going to erase it. We write it like this: f of x, and this number right here is literally x. Okay, so with that being said, here I got to go to f of 2. So I got to go where 2 is and see where it touches anywhere on our graph. And it touches right there, which happens to be over here at negative 1. Where does negative 3 touch? So let's go to negative 3. Uh-oh. It seems to touch at 2 places. And remember when we were graphing inequalities that when you have an open circle, that number is not included. Open circle, that number is not included. So it can't be this one. So that means it has to be this one, which looks like about 2.5. Okay. Let's look at the next one, f of negative 1. Negative 1. So I go to negative 1. It goes this one, and it goes to that one. This one can't be included. That's open circle. This one can't be included. That's open circle. So if nothing can be included, that's a no solution. And let's go to f is negative 4. Let's do this one. So we're going to go down here to -4 and see where it touches our picture. Oh, it touches it up here. Where is this at? That's 2. So you don't have to solve them. You just have to actually see where the graph touches them. All right. Go ahead and pause the video right now and see if you can do this next one on your own. Now that you've had time to attempt to do this video, let's go ahead and see if you got your answers right. So f of 0, so I'm going to go to 0. It touches right here at 2. Okay, now I'm going to go to -4. Where's -4 on x? Where does it touch? It touches right here, which happens to be down here at 1. Okay, let's go to where f is -1. -1. So at -1, I have this one where it touches, and I have this one where it touches. And if we remember correctly, what happens there? That is an open circle. So what that means is that is not included. So it can't be that one. So it has to be this one down here at -2. And then we're going to do f of 3. So we got to go to where x is 3. See where it touches, and it touches up here. Where? What number is that? That's +3. Okay? So there's that. Hopefully this is making sense so far. Now, here's where students get tricked up the most, is when we have to graph these. We're going to graph a couple of these so that you guys can get the hang of it. We're going to graph, I think, a total of 4. Okay, so if you remember back to my rules, we're going to, step 1, draw some boundary lines. We're going to graph the part that we need, and then we're going to make sure our circles are correct, and that's what we're ready to do. Okay? So let's start with this one right here. So my boundary lines are going to always end up or appear over this way. This always tells me where my boundaries are. Sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 3, which you'll see. So right now, our boundary is at 0. So actually our boundary is right here. Actually, no, let's keep going this way. Our boundary's there, okay? So we're going to graph both lines, but we're not going to need, we're going to graph both lines, but we're not going to need the whole thing of both of them. So let's go ahead and graph this first one. Let's graph it in green. So f of x is -2x plus 1. So I got let's go ahead and do this. And remember that my m is going to be -2/1. And my b is going to be +1. So +1. I'm going to go down 2/1. Up 2, left 1. Up 2, left 1. And so on, right? And then I'm going to get my little handy dandy ruler, which I'm still learning how to use. And I'm going to connect the dots. Okay, there's that. Excuse me. Now, according to this, there's a couple things we have to do first. We have to make sure we have the correct part graphed. So we only want a green line that is less than 0. So we want it only on the right of our red line, which means that this side we no longer need. because that says we only want that line when it's less than 0. Okay? And then also, since there's no line under there, which is this step 3, make sure you have the right circle. This should be an open circle right there. So what this is saying is we only need that part. We don't need the whole thing. Remember on the, I think step 2, I said only put the part that you need, and this is the only part we need. We don't need any more of this. All right, let's do the other one in purple. We only want to the right of 0. To the right of 0, or in other words, to the right of our red line. So we're going to go ahead and graph this. We're going to start at -3. So for this one, my M is equal to 2/3. And my B is equal to -3. I'm going to start at -3. Rise 2, run 3. Rise 2, run 3. Or I can go down 2, left 3. And there's that. Okay, let's do our handy dandy ruler. Draw my line. And beautiful. Okay? But do we really need the whole thing though? Nah. We only want the side that's bigger than 0 or to the right. So I'm going to erase this part. Okay? And on this one, this should be a closed dot on 0, and this one has the closed dot. So when we're done with this, I don't even need this boundary line anymore. This is what our piecewise function will look like for this graph. Okay? All right. Let's look at the next one. First things first, identify our boundary line. Our boundary line is going to fall at +2, which happens to be here. Okay? +2. So we either going to want the left, and how can you tell? Let me show you this really quick. If I draw this again, but I make an arrow like that, that means that this line on the top is going to go to the left. And if I draw this arrow, this line is going to go to the right. Okay? So that's how you can kind of tell. All right, so let's take care of this. So when we have this one, it's just a solid number. This is kind of like when we did our others. I was like, yeah, I really like these type. Anytime you have just a number, you're going to go to that number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put a dot and draw a line horizontally. Okay? That's the graph. But do I need the whole thing though? Or do I only want part of it? And I only want the left-hand side of that purple line. Because remember, this purple line represents our boundaries. So I don't want this side. And then there's that. Okay, so I drew my boundary line. That was step 1. Step 2 was to draw the line that I need and erase the stuff I don't. That was 2. And step 3 was to check and make sure my circle was right. So it's going to be on this purple line. On the purple line, I should have a closed circle because this is the equal to. Okay? All right, the next one. We're going to do this one down here. This says we're going to graph this line, but we only want the part that's bigger than 2. Okay? We only want the part that's bigger than 2. So let's go ahead and graph the line. My slope is 2/1, And my y-intercept is -4. So I'm starting at -4. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to rise 2, run 1. Rise 2, run 1. Rise 2, run 1. Let's do 2. Rise 2, run 1. One more. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and use my ruler. Connect my dots. Now, do I want the whole thing? No, I only want the part that's to the right. So that means I don't need any of this. Okay, so that's the correct line. And step 3 was to go find and make sure I have the correct circles. And on my blue line, should my circle have been opened or closed? And if you said open, you are correct. So I got to adjust this so that I have an open circle. So now I no longer need this purple line because everything is already drawn. And that is my piecewise for that one. Okay? And what piecewise really is, it's kind of like telling you, if you fall within this category, you go here. If you fall within this category, you go there. Almost like at our school, if you're a freshman, you go to A lunch. And if, let's say, you're a sophomore or junior, you go to B lunch. It just puts you in categories of what to do in certain criteria. All right. And we're going to do 2 more. We're not going to do those. We're going to do this one first. And then we're going to do this one second because it has 3. And I like when it has 3. All right. So our boundary line is at 2. So our boundary line is going to be at 2, which is here. Perfectly straight line. Told you. Bam. Ooh, in your face. Oh, so now this top line we're going to do in orange. And the bottom line we can do in like pink. One of those is going to go to the left of that boundary line, and the other one is going to go to the right. So let's go ahead and graph that top one. My slope is -2/1. My y-intercept is -1. So I'm starting at -1. I'm going to go down 2, left 1, down 2, left 1, up 2, left 1, and so on. Get my ruler. And there's that. Okay. So I got my ruler. Now, step 2 was to erase the stuff that I don't need. And according to this, I only need to the left of my boundary line. So I'm going to erase the stuff that I don't need. I don't need this part. And then step 3 was to verify that my circles are correct and they should be on the boundary line. And this one that's an orange, goldish looking color should have the closed circle, the closed dot, and it does. So I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. And that's all we're going to do for that gold one. All right, now the pinkish looking one, we're going to graph that one. And our slope is -1/1. Y-intercept is 4. So I'm going to go to 4. Down 1/1. Down 1/1. Down 1/1. And so on. How nice. Now I'm going to connect the dots. And I'm going to go here. All right. Do I need the whole thing or just part of it? Hopefully you said part of it. I only need to the right of my boundary line. So I'm going to erase this part. And then there's my little arrow down here. And the last thing I got to check to make sure my circles are correct. That's on my boundary lines. And this pink one, should it have an open circle or closed one? Hopefully you said open. So I got to make this adjustment on this line. That should not be closed. This is going to be open. Now that I've done that, all my stuff is graphed. I no longer need this line. And that's how you do that one, okay? And the final one. Up until this point, we've had two criteria, either to the left or to the right. But when we were solving these equations over here, we had, where did it go? See how we had a left, we had a middle, and we had a right on these, purple, blue, and pink. When we're about to graph, there's going to be a left, there's going to be a middle, and there's going to be a right, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look and do take care of our boundary lines first. I see a -2, so I'm going to draw my boundary line at -2. And then I have a boundary line. What's the other number you see in this area? Hopefully you said +2. Boundary line on +2. There's that. Okay? So now I have two boundary lines. One of these lines, when I graph it, it's going to go to the left of the first one. The next one is going to go in the middle. And the last one is going to go to the right. So there's going to be 3 parts. All right. Ooh, this says -4. Perfect. My favorite kind. So because it says -4, so I got to go to my, my y is going to be -4. But I'm going to stop it right there. Because remember, this is the left side. Okay? Is it going to be open circle or closed circle? What do you think? This right here is going to be a closed circle. And if you're watching this video and you have me, and we've already covered Hoy and Vux. Remember Hoy's horizontal lines? And that's y equals, and that's what this one is, okay? Now let's do the middle line. Let's do this blue. It's gonna, we only want the part that's in between -2 and +2. So let's go ahead. My M is 1/1, and my B is -2. Up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Down 1, left 1, down 1, left 1. We're only interested in the part that's in the middle. So I could just go ahead and draw this line and call it a day. And remember, since there are since those two inequalities are there, that's an open circle on both sides. And finally, let's do the -2x plus 4. Let's do that one in, let's say, green. M is -2 over 1. B is +4. +4, I got to go down 2 to the right 1, down 2 to the right 1, down 2 to the right 1, down 2 to the right 1. And what part of the line do you think this is going to go? And I'm hoping you're saying to the right. So we don't need the whole line. We just need the part that's to the right. So that means I can get rid of this. Now, I do want to point something out. Really, let's go ahead and we have our 3 lines drawn. And then we have this right here. All right, I do want to point out that at the -2 where they overlap, the whatever one has the equal to sign, that's the one who like wins that battle. So red is like, nope, this -2 belongs to me. Light blue, you're just visiting. And then green is like, well, that -2 belongs to me because I have the equal to sign. So light blue, you're just visiting. Okay? And that is how you graph those. So you only graph the part that you need. So remember, step 1 is to, let's go back and look really quick. Make sure I get these right. Remember, step 1, we want to draw our boundary lines. Step 2, graph your lines, and then you only keep what you need. Step 3, make sure your circles are correct, and those circles will always be your boundary line. Okay? Hopefully this helped. If you have any questions, come see me, and you have a good day.